If your inner voice, your inner critic, the negative self-talk is preventing you from feeling good, from taking action, taking the steps that you need to take, or just in general, keeping you from truly living the life that you are worthy and deserving of living, that you are meant to live, do not fret, that is about to change. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what the inner critic is and how you can actually start to work with that inner voice rather than against it in order to form a more supportive and loving and encouraging relationship with yourself, which in turn is going to lead to a more fulfilling and empowered and confident life. But before we get into it, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button. It really genuinely helps me to grow, and I share new videos and content like this every single week. Welcome or welcome back. My name is Danielle, and on this channel we talk personal development, spirituality, intentional living, and so much more. And in today's video, we are talking all about the inner critic. What is the inner critic? How does it show up in your life, in your thoughts? How is it formed? Why you actually want to befriend, make friends with your inner critic rather than fight against it or suppress it or ignore it. And finally, some practical tips, some exercises that you can do when that negative voice pops into your consciousness in order to start to reframe those negative thoughts and really build and form a more loving and compassionate relationship with that inner voice. So let's first talk about what the inner critic is, how is it showing up, and why is it not actually the enemy in the way that you might think that it is? We all have this inner voice. I have it, you have it. I don't think that I know anyone that does not have this kind of criticizing voice that pops in every once in a while. And that is okay because this is completely normal. It is part of being human. But the important thing to really recognize when it comes to this inner voice is that it is not you. That voice, that inner critic, is not who you are. It is a thought pattern. And although this voice can actually be helpful at times because it can serve to motivate you to take action towards the things that you want in your life, the problem with the inner critic arises when it becomes too critical, and these critiques and this negative self-talk eventually leads to low self-esteem, to self-doubt, and even to anxiety, depression, and just you not living the life that you are truly here to live. The inner critic normally has its roots in your childhood experiences. When we are young, we rely on our caregivers, whether that's parents or someone else, to provide us with our basic needs because at that stage we cannot provide it to ourselves. So we really rely on feeling loved and safe and connected in order to know that we are going to survive. As a result, at this age, things like rejection or criticism literally feel like a threat to our survival because we cannot take care of ourselves and because we don't know any better. So this is where the inner critic comes in. This inner voice, this negative self-talk is actually formed as a protection mechanism to keep us feeling safe from the rejection, the criticism of others. For example, let's say that as a child, your parents tell you over and over again that you are too loud, that you're too excited, and you need to quiet down. Over time, you are actually going to start to inherently believe this message and convince yourself that there is something wrong with you because you are hearing this over and over and over again. So you internalize this message of, I'm too loud, I'm too excited, and that is bad. And as a result, as you continue to go on in life, you will start to dim your own light. You'll start to be more quiet and less excited and feel like you have to behave a certain way in front of other people in order to be liked and valued and appreciated. You may even start to criticize yourself for getting excited or being loud. You will take the place of that critical voice of your parents because it feels better in our internal system to criticize ourselves before someone else can do it to us. And similarly, if a child is raised in an environment where success is valued at all costs, maybe you're really pushed to get good grades, then as that message is internalized, you may view failure as the absolute worst thing that can happen. And so you're actually afraid to take risks, to take steps in life towards what you want, because you were so afraid of the risk of failure. So in both of these examples, the inner critic is formed as a result of external messages becoming internalized and essentially forming this inner voice that is trying to protect us from the judgment and the criticism and the harm that we may receive from other people. This is why the inner critic isn't actually your enemy. It's trying to protect you, just not in the way that is actually serving you in this moment. Maybe it did serve you in the past. Maybe it truly did protect you, but not anymore. And that is why it is so important to learn how to work with the inner critic and really shift that narrative. So let's talk about how the inner critic can actually show up in your life. And I've got a list over here, no shame in the game because I don't want to forget this, but the inner critic can show up in so many ways. It can be negative self-talk, self-doubt, procrastination, perfectionism, comparison, guilt, and shame, which is a huge one that stops us really, really strongly in our tracks, control and rigidity, fear and anxiety, self-censorship, so actually stopping yourself from truly being who you are, and low self-esteem. So you want to really start to gain an awareness of how this voice, how this inner critic is showing up personally for you. Because once you start to gain the awareness, we can really start to move into the next steps of befriending this inner critic. So I'll give you a little personal example here, and that is me starting this YouTube channel. I dealt with a lot of procrastination coming up, and if I was not aware of my own reaction to fear and self-doubt, maybe I would not have recognized that that procrastination was coming from a place of fear and was coming as a response to this inner voice telling me that I could be judged or I might fail. And so even though it's something that can still be challenging, just that awareness and that recognition of I am procrastinating because of these fears that are not necessarily true. That's the thing, is just because it's a thought does not make it true. So that really puts the power back in our court. It allows us to be more empowered to choose how we are going to feel, what we are going to believe, what the new thoughts are going to be, and to step into a more empowered and aligned life. So why would we even want to befriend the inner critic? What does this mean? Befriending your inner critic means that you are seeking to understand where it is coming from. You are seeking to understand with compassion its fears, its intentions, rather than trying to suppress it or fight it or ignore it. It's easy to think of the inner critic as the enemy because it can cause so many problems. But here's the thing. Number one, what we resist persists. So by trying to suppress it, it's just going to make those feelings and those thoughts even stronger. And number two, again, your inner critic is trying to protect you. Those are its truest intentions. So by fighting it, by suppressing it, you are suppressing a part of yourself that is actually just trying to keep you safe from harm. So not only does it not work, but it is also intensifying this inner struggle, this battle within yourself that is keeping you from being able to step into alignment with what truly serves you. By working with your inner critic instead of against it, you can start to develop a more compassionate and empowering, supportive relationship with yourself, which will in turn lead to you being more confident, you feeling more empowered and motivated in every moment of your life. Before we get into the steps, one little side note. Before anything else, take responsibility for your thoughts and for your life. At this point, it could be really easy to put the blame onto other people, to your parents, onto society or your peers for imprinting you with these thoughts. But in order to change your reality, you have to stop playing victim. You have to stop giving your power away. Step up, own the fact that you are an adult now that is completely in control of your own destiny. And you have the power to choose how you respond to your inner voice. And so if any of these thoughts that you have from childhood are no longer serving you, then choose that you are going to claim and reframe them into new, more empowering thoughts that will really serve you in your life moving forward. So let's get into the steps and strategies that you can actually take the next time that your inner critic pops into your mind. Step 1 towards reframing these negative thoughts or towards befriending your inner critic is simply awareness. I kind of feel like this is the number one step to absolutely everything when it comes to like inner work and healing. So you need to start paying attention to when and under what circumstances that voice is actually coming into play. So start to notice, who are you surrounded by? What are your circumstances? What are you doing when you notice this critical voice? Cultivating an awareness of your inner critic can help you to start to identify the triggers that are leading to its talking and its popping into your consciousness. And once you're actually aware of these triggers, you can start to take the proactive steps to mitigate the thoughts being so negative and to really start to shift and reframe them. Number 2, you might not be expecting this one, but this is really, really powerful. So please give this a try. Trust me on this. And it is to connect with your body. So when you notice the inner critic chiming in, having all of the wonderful things that it has to say, I want you to close your eyes and really start to get in touch with your body and to notice where you feel the inner critic in your body. Where is it located? And once you've identified where it's located, breathe into that space. Really start to allow that space to open up. Breathe deeply into it and start to release the tension that is stored in that part of your body. And step number 3 is actually to talk to your inner critic. Yeah, we're gonna have a conversation with the inner critic here. And so maybe if you're out in public, don't do this out loud. Could get a little awkward. If you're okay with that, go for it. Otherwise, this can be an internal conversation. The important thing here is to ask questions from a place of non-judgment and genuine openness. So some of the questions that you can ask your inner critic are, what is it you would like me to know? What are you afraid might happen to me if you do not tell me these things? How are you trying to protect me? And what are you trying to protect me from? These questions are really powerful for a couple of reasons. Number 1 is they will help you start to actually understand the intentions and motivations of this inner voice. Number 2, you will start to clarify and understand a little bit better what it is actually trying to protect you from, whether that is real or imagined. And number 3, you will better understand the narrative or the limiting beliefs that are holding you back the most in life. The key thing to do here is to listen with an open mind. You don't have to accept the answers as truth. You also don't have to become defensive and, tell your inner critic that it's wrong. Just listen from a space of open-mindedness and non-judgment. And step 4 is to now respond. Responding from a place of kindness and compassion. Something that can be really, really helpful in this process is to remember that this voice is coming from your childhood. And so look at this inner critic, look at this inner voice as your inner child, as this little version of you. This can really make it easier to have a conversation from a more compassionate and open-minded space. And each time that your inner critic responds to one of your questions, acknowledge it, and you yourself can respond from a place of love, saying, I hear you. Thank you for trying to protect me. I understand that you are just trying to keep me from harm. And step 5 is to reframe these old limiting beliefs, to challenge the old beliefs and align with new, more empowering beliefs that truly serve you and your highest truth and expression. And oftentimes, the more empowering belief is simply the opposite of the belief that you are thinking in that moment. So here you can say to your inner critic, I understand that this thought, that this belief may have served me in the past. It could have genuinely protected me in the past, but it no longer serves me. It is no longer in alignment with who I am in this moment. And here is what actually is. Now using positive affirmations to reprogram the subconscious mind. So if your negative self-talk is saying that you aren't worthy, reframe it into, I am worthy, exactly as I am in this moment. If your inner voice says you can't do it, you say, I am capable of achieving my goals and fulfilling my dreams. And something that can be really, really powerful in this process of challenging the old thoughts and aligning with the new thoughts is to come back to your breath. Come back to your breath as you are using these new affirmations. So a little practice you can do here is to close your eyes, and as you inhale, focus on the new, aligned, empowered thought. It could be a word or a phrase. And as you exhale, let go, release the old thoughts or the limiting beliefs. So for example, you could inhale confidence and exhale self-doubt. And choose whatever words resonate for you and just inhale that new empowering thought, exhale the old limiting beliefs for as many times as you can or as many times as feels good to you. Those are the tips for really working with your inner critic in the moment that it comes up. And there are a couple more insights and suggestions that I want to share with you for just everyday practices that will really support you in having more awareness, in reframing negative thoughts, and just really being able to shift this relationship with yourself. So number 1 is meditation. Meditation is an amazing way for you to be able to really start to notice and be witness to your thoughts as they come up, and to start to recognize them and just be aware of them from the space of an observer rather than actually identifying with those thoughts. Meditation really allows us to enter into this conversation with ourselves from a space of non-judgment, from a more compassionate and loving witnessing space, and to really recognize the patterns that we're ready to let go of. Number 2 is journaling. This is another amazing, amazing practice for really reflecting on your thoughts, reflecting on your emotions, and noticing what are these recurring patterns or limiting beliefs that are coming up for you. You can also use your journaling practice as a way to write down the affirmations that you are using to reframe the negative thoughts into more empowering beliefs. Affirmations, again, can be a really, really positive practice. And if this is something that you can do every day, it will really start to imprint these new beliefs into your system even more quickly. And next is to take action. You can talk to your inner critic all day long, and you can work on reframing the thoughts. But if you are not willing to take action, to take steps towards what you truly want and desire in life, you are not going to achieve the lasting change and transformation that you really want. By taking action, you prove to yourself that you are willing to trust yourself. You prove to yourself that you are capable despite the self-doubt that is coming up with that inner voice. You shift your focus from the perceived limitations to the potential and possibilities. You will start to even further shift and change these deeply ingrained patterns and behaviors. And in doing so, you will become more confident and more sure of yourself, even in those moments where the negative talk pops into your consciousness. And finally, get out of your own head, okay? So sometimes if you find yourself really stuck, just really, really stuck in this negative loop or negative energy, the best thing that you can do is shift out of that space, shift out of that energy so that you can get into a space and an energy of a higher vibration. So if you notice that you're really stuck, some of the other things are not necessarily helping in that moment, try something like going for a walk outside. Nature, being outside, getting fresh air is an amazing way to shift your energy. So get outside in nature, try moving your body, exercise, or practice yoga, or just do some form of movement that really feels good to you. You could dance, you could put on music that you really love. Just find something that makes you happy, that really shifts your energy so that you can move away from the kind of negative loop that you may feel stuck in that moment. And as always, be patient, be gentle with yourself. All of these things within the healing and the self-growth and development journey, they take time and they really do ask us to be patient and ask us to be gentle with ourselves. So if mistakes happen, if you're hard on yourself sometimes, don't judge yourself in those moments. Just allow it to happen, and then as quickly as you can, as best as you can, shift into that more aligned and empowered state. With time and with practice, you will learn to replace the self-criticism with self-compassion. And this is going to lead to a more supportive and a more loving relationship with yourself, which again is going to lead to more confidence, more empowerment, and more motivation in your life. So I really want to know what has supported you the most in your own journey of cultivating more self-love, more self-compassion. Comment below this video. Let's really get the conversation going. Your comment could really inspire other people to use a similar practice or to have a mindset shift that empowers them into more aligned and beautiful beliefs about themselves. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end of this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.